Last spring, when Chris Licht was hired by CNN and given the impossible task of rescuing the passengers on the Titanic with a miniature inner tube, he made a public promise to the rapidly dwindling audience. Hello, men and men pretending to be women. I have been given the task of removing the woke fungus from this network. Going forward, CNN will be a centrist network. Sure, Chrissy. Instead of Chris Licht performing a fundamental transformation of CNN, he fundamentally transformed himself into Chris the Bongo Licker. I told you guys last spring when he made this promise, there is only one way to make this happen. When a network has been 100% infected with the woke fungus, it is damn near impossible to eradicate it. But if you are going to try, you've got to be all in. This isn't something that you can half-ass. I told you guys last spring, if CNN was truly committed to eradicating the woke fungus, they would have to start from the inside and work their way out. Firing a doofus like Brian Stelter, that was not going to be enough. All that accomplished was saving thousands of dollars in the catering budget and causing the stock of Dunkin' Donuts to decline by 25%. Firing the ultimate wanker spanker Jeffrey Toobin, that was not going to be enough. John with the hardwood, Donnie and his lemons, all these firings, that was nothing but window dressing. It was a virtue signal. Chris Licht was trying to show normal people, I mean business. I fired the masturbator. I fired John with the stiff wood. I squashed the lemon. CNN is now the network dedicated to hard news. Oh, hard. The biggest mistake Chris Licht made in his tenure at CNN, and just to be clear, this dude made a lot of mistakes, but the biggest mistake that he made, he didn't remove the fungus from the inside. He didn't fire staffers or producers. He didn't fire people behind the scenes. This was like a surface level removal of the woke fungus. And this led to the downfall of Chris Licht. Look at what happened when he convinced Donald Trump, Orange Man bad. Look at what happened when he convinced Donald Trump to appear on CNN for a town hall with the insufferable Katie Collins. Katie Woo! Katie Woo! This should have been Chris Licht's biggest success. The Orange Man brought CNN their highest ratings in years. I think it was over 3 million people who tuned in to watch the Trumper humiliate an inexperienced Katie Roo. Instead, the town hall with Trump, it was the reason, or one of the many reasons that Chris Licht was fired. Why? Because it created so much tension with the staff at CNN. These people are not used to succeeding. These people are not used to millions of people watching their network. CNN is home to the huge embarrassing failure. Because of his failure to eradicate the woke fungus behind the scenes, Chris Licht, he didn't have anyone to have his back when the media was pushing for his removal. Ultimately, it led to him being fired, but that's okay. That's okay. Because CNN has officially found their hero. I can be your hero, baby. They have finally found their knight in shining armor. This new hire, it has lonely men at the network stroking the cucumber. Even Jeffrey Toobin, who no longer works at CNN, the Jeffer is lubing his tube and spanking with excitement. Yesterday afternoon, CNN announced that they were hiring Mark Thompson as the new fearless leader of the network. KC, who in the hell's Marv Thomas? I had never heard of him either, but I'm going to be honest with you here. This dude has a lot of experience in the mainstream media. This is not like CNN hiring Chris Licht, whose only experience was producing that doofus Stephen Colbert and working with Morning Beau on MSNBC. Mark Thompson was responsible for running the entire operation at both the New York Times and the BBC. Wait a minute. I thought CNN wanted to be centrist. I thought David Zaslav, the president of Discovery Media, which owns CNN, I thought he wanted the network to appeal to normal people. Someone please explain to me how hiring someone from the New York Times and the BBC, two organizations known for their shit fuckery, how is that going to move CNN towards the center? Now, to be completely fair here, I am not familiar with Mark Thompson. He worked at the BBC over a decade ago. He left the New York Times in the summer of 2020. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I could not find any evidence that Mark Thompson grills the woke wiener, but Let's be real here. Rescuing CNN, that is going to be the biggest challenge of his media career. Let me just give you some examples of how bad things are going at this network, because this Titanic, it is resting at the bottom of the woke sea. I hope Mark Thompson has some strong muscles. Hope he's got a good supplier for steroids, because I don't see how one man is going to be able to lift this sinking ship out of the water. I have mentioned before that it seems like the only man who can really save CNN is Donald Trump. Back in 2015 and 2016 and throughout the Trump administration, ratings at CNN were through the roof. Hell, at one point, CNN was actually beating Fox News and MSNBC in prime time. 24 hours a day, it was wall-to-wall coverage of the Orange Man. Don Lemon expressing his fake outrage, fabricating stories of mythical racism. Chris Cuomo, hey, it's me, Chrissy C. Chris Cuomo removing his shirt, placing the supersized cigar in his mouth, trying to seduce the Orange Man. Andy Cooper emotionally crying on the air over the fake hatred the Trumper supposedly has for men who prefer a different whole than you and me. CNN, they happened to stumble upon a formula, and it worked for a while. The problem for CNN, the foundation of their success, it was built on the sand. As soon as Trump left the White House and CNN had to rely on the ability of their on-air talent to entertain the audience, ratings went directly into the pooper. Things have gotten so bad at CNN, so many viewers have abandoned this network that Donald Trump can no longer save it. A couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, the Trumper was officially indicted in Georgia. I can't remember the exact charges. I believe it had to do with him questioning the 2020 election, which was somehow legal in 2000 and 2016 when George Bush defeated the guy who pretended to invent the internet and Donald Trump defeated Hank Clinton. Questioning those elections, that was fine, that was legal. Questioning the 2020 election, no bueno. In the past, coverage of the Trumper would spike ratings at CNN. Millions of people would tune in to watch Andy Cooper dramatically fake his outrage towards the Orange Man. During the month of July, CNN averaged 470,000 viewers. Huge, embarrassing failure. Now, the good news is, Trump was able to temporarily spike ratings last week. Bad news is, CNN only drew 754,000 viewers. Both Fox and MSNBC easily doubled that number. During the month of August, CNN didn't have one show in the top 25 in cable news. Now, just to be clear, I'm not talking about the top 25 on cable. I'm talking about the top 25 in cable news. We're not comparing CNN to the NFL preseason or the World Cup. The highest rated show on the network, Andy Cooper, who comes in at number 26. Well, Casey, what about Caitlin Collins? I thought she was a rising star. Katie Rue is floating around on a deflated life jacket, barely clinging to the surface of the woke sea. We are, 3 months in now to her primetime show? And Caitlin Collins has already nominated herself for the upcoming Huge Embarrassing Failure Awards. According to Mediaite, who spoke with several staffers at CNN, morale at the network is at an all-time low. Again? Really? Last year, I seem to remember seeing several reports that morale at CNN was at an all-time low. Not only does CNN continue setting record low ratings, they also continue setting record lows when it comes to the morale of the shitfucks. One staffer told Mediaite morale is in the shitter. People hate working there. Employees at CNN, they are constantly worried about their jobs. Another staffer told Mediaite people are concerned with the instability at the network. Now, with the hiring of Mark Thompson, CNN, they are going on their third president in the last 18 months. Now, if you count the 4 embarrassing failures known as the Quad, who have been running CNN further into the ground since the bongo licker was fired, CNN is going on their 7th president in 18 months. But that's okay. That's okay. With the hiring of Mark Thompson, some employees at CNN finally have hope. We finally have a savior. We finally see the light inside the dark rectum. Some of these staffers, they are even giving suggestions to save the network. We need less ideological changes and more programming changes. What? What? First of all, there have already been programming changes. Hell, a couple of weeks ago, CNN changed the entire lineup. They've centered their primetime lineup around the insufferable, inexperienced Katie Collins. They follow up that huge, embarrassing failure with two other failures who have already proven they can't draw an audience. Secondly, ideological changes, that is exactly what CNN needs. Matter of fact, they have needed this for years now. This was the exact reason Chris Licht was hired, to change the mentality of the network. Now, obviously, that didn't happen, but it's also the reason that Mark Thompson was hired. Will he be able to pull it off? Will Mark Thompson be able to eradicate the woke fungus? I'll say the same thing I said when Chris Licht was hired. The only way for this to happen, the only way for CNN to move towards the center, you have to start from the inside and work your way out. You have got to clean up the mess behind the scenes. You have got to bring in people who are dedicated to reporting the news, not people who are dedicated to creating the news. Huge, huge difference between the two. If this does not happen, CNN is going to continue to compete with networks like News Nation and Newsmax instead of Fox News and MSNBC. The only way to compete with Fox and MSNBC, you have got to find a way to differentiate yourself. One way to do that, appeal to normal people. The vast majority of Americans, they don't relate to identity politics. Most people are not far right or far left. Most people are in the middle of the spectrum. CNN needs to appeal to those people. Is Mark Thompson the right man for the job? I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, the dude does have a lot of experience, but the question is, what happens if CNN continues to be a huge, embarrassing failure under the leadership of Mark Thompson? What happens if Mark Thompson doesn't save the network? Where would CNN go from there? You tell me. Also, is anyone surprised that morale at CNN is at another all-time low? When coverage of Donald Trump can no longer spike ratings, you have got a very serious problem. Can anything save CNN at this point? You let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.